Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Beaver and today we are attempting not to make white rum. Now this is not clickbait. We really did try to make white rum, but we failed. So spoiler alert, we did not succeed. Now when I started the research on how to make white rum, I saw that there were two distinctly different types of white rum. Now the first one is your standard white rum. Got a commercial sample here. We'll be testing our white rum against this, but this is an unaged white rum. We also then took the rum and we started aging it, because the second type of white rum is an aged white rum that then is put through a filtration process to remove all the color and some of the very jaggedy flavors. And then you end up with a nice white rum to make cocktails with, similar to a Bacardi rum. Now, before we get too much into detail on how I failed, let's quickly go over the process of how we got to this point and what steps we followed. And then I need your guys' help to tell me what to do differently next time so we can actually make a white rum, and a aged white rum at that, not a unaged white rum. Now Citric was kind enough to send over two of their rum kits. The one rum kit is a standard rum that contains the molasses and the sugar and the nutrients and the yeast that you need to do your rum. The other rum kit was a banana rum kit. Now, seeing that we've made banana rum on the channel before, I thought let's make a white rum out of that kit, and we did the white rum version of it, or we attempted to do the white rum version of it. The recipe, the full recipe, will be down in the description box below, but we took that kit and we tweaked it just a little bit. And the tweak that we made to it was we started off by inverting 5 kilograms of brown sugar. After the inversion process of the brown sugar, we put that into a fermenter. We used that nice hot liquid to add the molasses into. That was 5 liters of molasses. We stirred it all up to make sure that everything was nice and dissolved, as well as rinse out the bottle. We then went ahead and added the banana extract. Now that was that little brown bag that you see going into the fermenter. Now we also added a couple of nutrients because we increased the volume of this fermentation. The kit was supposed to be for 20 liters. We ended up making 40 liters because of that additional sugar that we added. Now the reason for this is I wanted to make a more delicate tasting rum, so that is not as molasses forward like you would expect when you do a white rum version. So it doesn't have that very deep dark molassesy flavors, or we hope it doesn't. And then we ended up doing the fermentation. Now after primary fermentation was done, we took another step, and the next step that we took was we added some live culture yogurt into the fermentation. Now the reason for the live culture yogurt is to promote a lacto fermentation to happen within the fermentation, to pull out some more of those funky flavors that you expect from a rum. Something really interesting happened during that process. After we've added the yogurt into the fermentation, what happened was the flavors started getting really nice and muted. So when you opened up the bucket after the primary fermentation was done, you had this nice and robust molasses smelling rum wash in your bucket. When we added the yogurt, after about 3 days, those very bold molasses flavors started being pushed into the background, and it changed into a more of a fruity smelling wash. So we didn't really get a pellicle on top to make to have that presence of a lactobacillus infection happening, but I did see the gravity points climbing a little bit from the finish of the initial primary fermentation, thus knowing that the lactose actually converted some of the sugars into lactic acid. Now, as we all know, in a molasses wash, very little as we all know, in a rum wash, there is some unfermentable sugars that are left over. So those sugars were converted into lactic acid, ending up giving us a nice balanced profile wash. We then dumped everything into the still, all 40 liters of it. Remember, I've got a 50-liter boiler. We brought the temperature up nice and slowly to prevent any puking, and we ran this through 3 plates. Now the reason for the 3 plates is because we're trying to make a white rum or a light rum, we had to distill it off at a slightly higher ABV. So we took everything off the still at between 80 to 90%. So the hard cut we took was between 80 and 90%. At the end, when we blended everything together, we were sitting at about 85% ABV for the hard cut. After blending everything together, we split the batch into 2 separate containers. Container number 1 was the white rum. Now this is an unaged white rum, so this is just proofed down to 43% and then put into the bottle. That is what we're going to be comparing to the commercial version over here. Then we went and we aged the other half of the spirit in a jar at 60%. We dumped a whole bunch of French oak that also comes with the rum kit from Citric, so you have your French oak already toasted and charred, ready for you to use. We dumped that into the aging chamber. We ran it through a couple of hot and cold cycles over the period of 2 weeks. We ended up with a nice dark rum. So this is the aged version. Now to make a white rum, we needed to filter out the color, and unfortunately, after several attempts of filtration, the color actually got darker. So if you compare the one to the other one, it has a darker color to it. Don't know why that happened. The first 100 mils or so that ran through the filtration system came out nice and clear, but after that the color just started intensifying. So knowing that we're going to lose gravity points while filtering, I proofed it down to 46%, and after running it through the filtration, we ended up at 43%. 43, just hovering above 43%. But like I said, none of the color was taken out. In actual fact, after several filtrations, this is what we ended up with. Now, this is where I need you guys' help. First up, what kind of filter medium should I have used? Because in the filter at the moment is a 1 meter long tube that is completely filled up with activated carbon from top to bottom. Now, is it not enough filtration? Is it not enough medium that I used the wrong size tube? Remember, it's a 50 ml tube, 1 meter long. Because I tried a couple of different variations of filtration. I dumped everything into a holding container at the top and then restricted the flow coming out of the bottom so it drips out nice and slowly. Like I said, every time about 100 mils came out nice and clear, and then the color started coming back in. I then attempted to drip the spirit in from the top and allow it to pass through the filtration medium nice and slowly. That didn't make any difference. We ended up with, once again, with about 100 mils of product that got filtered to clear, and then the color started coming in again. So we ran it through the filter about 7 times. Now, I haven't tasted any of these products. All I did is I bottled them, left them for about 4 days so all the flavors can just melt back together after blending, and we're going to test it right now on camera to see if the flavor actually changed. Now, keeping in mind that the profile that we're going for is a nice and mellow cocktail rum or a light rum. So let's start off with the first one. So we're going to start off with the standard white rum. Now this is the unaged version. As I said, came off the still at a nice high ABV. Was aged, or was not aged, was just straight blended or proofed down to 43% and then put into the bottle. So on the nose, we have some nice delicate rum flavors. We do not have anything that's overpowering. You do get a slight toffee caramel smell coming from it, but nothing too overpowering. You do get a hint of caramelized banana kind of flavor, but more unripe banana than anything else. As for the flavor, it's not very molasses forward. You do get that hint of licorice or aniseed type of taste, but it's just predominantly sweet flavors coming through. You have that slight little caramel flavors coming through on the taste, but nothing too overpowering. Now to compare it to a unaged commercial version. Now the reason why we're doing this is a lot of guys have asked on the channel as well as on the emails, how does the homemade product compare to a store-bought product? So why not just do a test? Here we have a unaged version, also sitting at 43% from a commercial distillery here in South Africa. Okay, this has a lot more ethanol on the nose, so it does smell a little bit sharper. This is very licorice forward on the smell. Don't really get a lot of caramels and vanillas like you normally expect from a standard rum. Okay, so on the flavor, doesn't have as much molasses as on the nose, but it does have a little bit of an ethanol hit, so you can actually taste it burning going down. It's a little bit harsher on the palate than the highly distilled version, so I would assume that they didn't distill this at such a high ABV. Pretty good mixer. So now for the fun part. We have the aged version, keeping in mind that this was run through hot and cold cycles for roughly 2 weeks, where we put it through multiple cycles during a day. We then filtered it out just through a normal muslin cloth to remove any wood and sediment, and then we bottled it at 43%. Now what jumps out at me initially as I smell it is the more tannic side of the wood. So remember, this was aged at 60%, so we were looking for that nice tipping balance between sweet wood flavors as well as some nice tannic wood flavors. It does have a slight rubbery smell to it, so let's give it a taste. So on the flavor, there's a lot more sweetness on this. It brought that toffee caramel flavor that the original product had in it right to the foreground. You do get that nice caramel finish. There's almost no molasses heavy flavors. It just subdued it nicely, so it will make a very nice sipping rum. Keeping in mind, we did distill this off at a higher ABV, so we do not get that very molasses forward type of rum. Now for the one that I'm very interested in, the one that ran through the filtration 7 times. Now we filtered it 7 times in different methods and versions to try and get it clean like I explained before, but nothing helped. We actually, like I said, the color got even darker. So immediately on the nose, this is all wood. I don't get any sweet caramel flavors. I just get wet wood smell. It smells, yeah, it smells like when you remove your staves out of your aging process and they get left out a little bit and starting to dry, and you get that damp wet wood smell. No sweetness, very subdued rum smell. Yeah, that's no good. That tastes like that experiment that I did where I did wood at different ABVs. We aged the same spirit with different ABVs, starting at 80% going all the way down to 0%, so just straight water. Now this tastes like that 20% ABV test where you have a lot of wood, and I physically mean like chewing on a matchstick type of wood flavor. There's no sweetness, there's no ethanol, there's nothing. But at the end of the day, it's still at 43%, and yeah, it's no good. It's just like drinking wood and water. So it's like a wood tea. So that brings me to my conclusion. Now, if you stuck around this far, thank you very much. But I need your help. I really want to make a good quality white rum. If anybody out there has made white rum before, please put it down in the comment section or send me an email where you can talk me through the process that you used, because just filtering it through an activated carbon filter just stripped out everything and just left that big bulky wood flavors, and that would explain the color, because everything else was left behind and it kind of concentrated that wood. For those that were interested, we started off with 1.5 liters running through the filter. We ended up with 1 liter. After the multiple filtrations, we lost about 500 mils to the filter. So if anybody has an idea on how to do this, please let me know so we can attempt it and do a proper white rum. And once again, thank you very much Stilltech for sending us the rum kits. The other rum is in the fermenter currently. We're going to be doing a nice little video on that using our offset gin basket. So if you wanted to check that out, remember to hit the subscribe button down below and ring the little bell icon so you don't miss anything. And as always, have a lekker day.